Good afternoon, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Friday, November 21st, 2025. And Ukraine, the plan for Ukraine has been released from the United States and Russia, and they don't have any kind of information or input from the EU about this, as far as I understand. They're just going with this. And the EU wants their say, and they're upset that Trump and Russia have been negotiating this behind, not even behind people's backs. It's been pretty open, but they just don't want to do it because it's Trump and Putin. And well, I mean, I'm not surprised by any of this, but we'll see. And we'll just go through the plan briefly. It's long, so I'll just kind of give you the highlights. Meat prices are spiking, but it may be due to meat packers and bad policies, bad import-export policies on carne, et cetera, et cetera. And shocking. It's not shocking because they want to stop us eating meat. And if they can use economic nudges, they're going to, and they are. And so that's unfortunate. Carney was out meeting with the United Arab Emirates. And I think that he's promised $3 trillion of investment from Canada to other countries in order to spur investment in Canada, but it's not actually yielding any firm deals. Just, oh yeah, we'll figure something out in the future, definitely, for sure, call me, or we'll call you, or whatever, we'll talk soon, or something like that. And it's kind of like going to a trade show. Most of the time you don't actually end up connecting with anybody, right? Weird, but true. Trump is calling out seditious behavior, and the Democrats are crying that Trump is threatening to put them to death, because the punishment for treason is death, or sedition, right, is death. And so it's very interesting how all of this is playing out. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. As I said, this is a busy weekend for me, so I'm not sure how things are going to look for tomorrow. I think I'll probably be earlier tomorrow, but this is probably going to be the least watched Canada Poly of all time, just because Friday afternoon politics. Oh, please. I didn't have anything else to do. I mean, nobody really wants to watch politics shows, I guess. I love politics shows, and I watch them. I use them for when I'm doing dishes and like when I'm driving places and things like that. But on the weekends, the show viewership on the weekend drops because people are driving less, and they're doing things with their families and stuff. So, but anyway, I digress. I'm still doing a show, and I'll be doing the same show tomorrow, and I'll do one on Sunday too, and probably a kitchen table talk. That's shaping up to be looking good. Anyway. Lots to get to. Let's get to it. Maxime Bernier starts us off this week, or today, and he says, the Bank of Canada is monetizing the debt. The central banks will buy treasury bills directly from the government. Carney's deficits will be financed by creating new money out of thin air rather than by raising taxes or borrowing money from private investors. This will lead to higher inflation and a loss of purchasing power. We will all be poorer. We cannot afford these deficits. And so, yeah, this is part and parcel of having the government kind of out of our control and in the control of people who hide behind curtains in order to pass the budget, CPC, and people like Mark Carney, who have huge, massive conflict of interest. And unlike Donald Trump, who also seems to have conflict of interest, Carney doesn't seem to be working for the Canadian people, while Donald Trump does appear to be working somewhat for the American people, at least in trade and the way he's structured the United States, taking money in from businesses and things like that. That seems to be working a treat, and being able to fund him and the country in the face of a whole bunch of other headwinds. So it's very interesting to watch all of this happen. But fundamentally, it feels like, well, here's an MP Stephanie Kuzy. She says it after a minute, and then there's like a Gangster's Paradise thing, which I'll cut off. But here's an exchange in the House of Commons where Stephanie Kuzy says, it looks like the Prime Minister's loyalties lie with someone other than the Canadian public.
Mr. Speaker, earlier today in this chamber, the member for Calgary-Midnapore said the Prime Minister's loyalty was not to Canada or to Canadians. That is a direct... I would invite her to retract that statement at this very time.
Apologize.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The Prime Minister's costly credit card budget loads reckless spending today on tomorrow's taxpayers, something an economist should know. After...
Okay. Let's look. The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore may continue, please. Continue.
This Prime Minister's loyalties are to Brookfield.
Sorry. So there you go. And she continues it, but the person who made the video is replaced it all with the Gangster's Paradise thing. It's fundamentally, yeah, I think that an argument could be made, and it is difficult to look past, and it's frustrating because people just want good governance. And I was saying to somebody, I don't care which team is in charge. I don't think any of the teams work for us per se, but it doesn't matter which team is in charge. I just want good policies that put Canada first. And it seems like the policies we get are just going to bankrupt Canada under the guise of putting Canada first. And it certainly doesn't put Canada first. Here is Cole, and he says, here's the thing. Oil and gas pays the bills in Canada. It pays for healthcare, it pays for social programs, and it could certainly help get us out of the financial hole this country's in. Are members of Mark Carney's Liberal caucus opposed to that? Yes, they are. Yes, they're opposed to that, definitely. This is a minute long back and forth. We'll just continue, but I think that it's a good point. It seems like they are opposed to that. Here is Mark Carney, and this is a 3-minute long clip, but Mark Nixon is talking about this. He says, Mark Carney's speech in the United Arab Emirates. Wait a second, did Mark Carney just say he plans to invest $2 trillion from Canada pension funds into the United Arab Emirates after promising $1 trillion to the United States? That's $3 trillion in total. The math isn't adding up. Yeah, our GDP, what's our GDP? I believe that it's like 2.8 or something like that. So we don't have $1 trillion to promise out. I could be wrong on that number though. I feel like that might be our debt. Is 2.8 trillion our debt now? I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, here is Andrew Lawton, and he says, once again, the Liberals fixate on my best-selling book instead of confronting food prices in Canada. That's okay. I think I had a decent enough response. So here is Andrew Lawton. This is after a couple of back and forths. The Liberal minister who was answering the question, Andrew Lawton was talking about, I can't remember the phrase of the question, but she said, that's rich coming from Pierre Poilievre's biographer. And so this is Andrew Lawton's retort to that comment. Here you go.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the plug for my book. If the member read books instead of talking points, the country would be in a better place. Food prices have risen almost 40% faster in Canada than the United States. Beef up 17%, chicken 6.2%, and now the Liberals are adding a fuel tax that will make gas 17 cents a litre more expensive. Driving in my riding in rural Canada is not a luxury, it is a necessity. A tax on gas is a tax on life. When will the Liberals get real and make life more?
Never. Absolutely never. And unfortunately, I feel like the whole structure of our system is set up to keep us fighting about small things while the safe gets loaded into whatever object they're using to transport it out, right? Mini Coopers, whatever. Matt Strauss says breaking Health Committee has voted 5-4 to have the Auditor General and the Parliamentary Budget Officer investigate the $800 million interim federal health program. This program gives health benefits to refugee claimants after their claim is found to be bogus. So this is more incentivizing people to stay after they're denied. No, you've got appeals. And yes, of course, your health care is covered during the appeal period. And the appeal period could potentially last years, so they're backdooring these people, saying they've lived lives here, they've been allowed to stay for this long, why not let them stay longer? And it's inappropriate. I don't agree with all of this. There's no reason to spend $800 million on people who have already had their claims denied. That's not judicial process, that's theft. So here's Lion Advocacy. He says, I asked ChatGPT to generate a checklist of things to look out for to determine whether government is being sabotaged. It generated these 11 items. I think Canada checks all the boxes. Am I wrong? Withholds or distorts communications. Yep. Pretends roles and responsibilities are unclear. Yes. Oftentimes, currently, the federal government is playing into education, healthcare. These are provincial responsibilities. There's no reason to have the government, federal government, moving itself into those provincial responsibilities. And further, there's all sorts of responsibilities around schools and children and all sorts of things like that the federal government is downloading, it seems like. the appropriate responses, and I'm concerned about that. Avoids documentation or alters records. Yes. Gives vague updates or skips accountability steps. What budget? Who needs a budget? Seeks unnecessary access or hides information. Yes. Weakens digital security or mishandles data. Yes. Repeats mistakes that always cause setbacks. Undermines relationships through gossip or division. Hello, the United States. Escalates conflicts or manufactures grievances. Circumvents official dispute processes. Deletes, hides, or mislabels important records. There's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of duplication on the list. Like the deletes, hides, or mislabels important records is the same as hiding information, right? Seeks unnecessary access or hides information. But seeking unnecessary access seems different enough from hides information to be its own thing. Anyway, take it with a grain of salt. It's ChatGPT. Dwayne says, what corporate lawyers call a poison pill, it kills a deal. Norman Spector says, does Carney want to say yes to Smith? He's responding to that headline. No, Carney doesn't want to say yes to Smith. They have something cooking in the background that this whole thing is going to be stifled. There is no pipeline. Everybody said so, right? And so everybody, this is everybody telling Picard there are 4 lights, right? And there are 5 lights, and Danielle Smith is trying to make a pipeline, and they're saying it's not going to happen. Dwayne, or is he buying time and expecting Indigenous communities and the NDP government in British Columbia to oppose it for him? So Carney doesn't need to stop this whole thing. He's given all the tools necessary to scuttle the pipeline to anybody who has a vested, who would be aligned with Carney's worldview, right, to get in the way. And as soon as one person's in the way, well, we don't have a consensus. No consensus here. We can't build this pipeline. Sorry, next project. Right? And you can't do this one. So Carney is going to stay squeaky clean on this, I think, because, and wrongfully so, because he's not squeaky clean. He's set up the circumstances to make sure that this pipeline won't go through, but he's going to point the finger at all of these other people who don't want a pipeline. And how could he possibly? Oh, it's not within him to do that to Canadians, So he's going to walk away. Danielle Smith's going to huff and puff, and ultimately she'll accept it. And pipeline. No, we've got solar panels in Canada, unfortunately. Ryan Garrettson says, we've got some trade news. Once again, it's just more strengthening and nothing more for Canada. So this is the video that Mark Carney released on his trip to the United Arab Emirates. It's just beeps and boops. And it says, President Mohammed has met with Mark Carney, and the countries signed an agreement to strengthen their economic cooperation. So great. Any details? $1 trillion or anything? Any details? I guess Mark Carney promised $1 trillion or something like that. But here's Mark Carney. He says, we just signed a new investment agreement with the United Arab Emirates that creates strong protections and predictable rules for investors. This will unleash billions of dollars in investments, including Canadian nation-building projects to create more high-paying careers at home. But the Buckywell says, until you announce the specifics of any deal, nobody can possibly believe you, based 100% on your failure of a track record, 0 for 24. And so this, I think, confirms it. We're exploring ways to boost ties, in the future. We'll give you a call if we're not washing our hair. I just feel like, no, he's overselling it and it will underperform. And, Brookfield stock is overperforming, right? But Canada, seriously underperforming, big time. Food Professor, let's talk about this. Oh, I wanted this to be in the free show yesterday, and I wasn't, and so I'm fixing that today. Food Professor is announcing Health Canada has indefinitely paused its proposed policy update on foods from cloned cattle and swine. After significant pushback from consumers and industry, Ottawa is stepping back to allow more time for discussion. For now, any cloned animal food product must still go through the full novel food assessment, and none are approved for sale in Canada. I wonder what the numbers are for any of the cloned meat that tried, has there been cloned meat in the last 30 years that has tried to make it in Canada and has gone through the novel food approval thing and been denied? I genuinely don't know, but I'm interested, right? Like, are there people out there already testing these clone meats, and are they making them en masse and just have nowhere to go? Do they continue to grow in the package because they're cancerous cells? And I'm concerned that they just continue growing all the time, right? Like, cut off half your chicken and watch it regenerate. Your quote chicken. Anyway, this pause raises big questions about transparency, public trust, and why the file advanced so quickly in the first place. There is no public trust. Public trust. Ooh, I lived through COVID, so yikes. That's a big no for me, dog. Just everybody stay home and wear a mask while we print money and destroy the economy? Yeah, sure. Sounds good. I don't think so, right? Food professor says for skyrocketing meat prices, the government can take action right now. Lift import restrictions on beef products and get our supply management house in order for poultry. Meat prices are out of control and they shouldn't be. Well, they're apparently culling chickens, right? And so I saw, this is going back a few years, probably even 2014, right? And there was a trucker, and he had a whole dump truck full of dead chickens or turkeys or a mix of both. And they had a guy pitchforking them in from like a bin. They'd pulled them out of the barn and they were moving them from the bin to the truck to take them to wherever they were disposing of them. And the guy was talking just, about all the protocols and what you do and what's done with them, and not even what's done with them. The fact that they'd been killed and they were leaving the farm and they weren't going to be processed. And it's just wild that this policy goes unquestioned, even despite everybody living through COVID. Right? Like, oh yeah, what do you do if one chicken gets sick? What does bird flu look like? Is it a particularly terrible death for the chicken? I genuinely don't know again. But like for humans, when they get the flu, you don't kill all the humans who've been in contact with that one human, right? Like those humans recover and like indistinguishable from humans who've never had flu, right? Like, so it just seems weird if everybody says, listen, if anybody in that barn is sick, any chicken or anything in that barn is sick, we got to kill all those things. Everything in there, everything's dead. We kill it all, right? Okay, yep, that sounds good. I always thought it was crazy. I always thought it was pretty wild. Is this really going to help us and protect us? I just don't think so. These are, like, we eat these things, right? Okay, so if it's a little under the weather, well, okay, but I don't think that's going to affect the meat. Will it? I just don't. Anyway, I could be really wrong, but it feels like we are being manipulated to kill off our own food supply. The reason I think that we're being manipulated to kill off our own food supply is we wouldn't tolerate not being allowed to raise food. We'd be like, we need to eat. And we know that like we need to have chickens to eat. And so like that takes time. If we want to have chickens to eat all the time, then we have to have a constant stream of chickens becoming ready to eat all the time. And so we need to be making chickens now and tomorrow and next week and next year. And so if we were unable to make the chickens, people would get suspicious. But as we are able to make the chickens, and there are chickens that are abundant, we don't question the murder of all these chickens. But I do question the murder of all these chickens, even before the ostriches were murdered. So here's another meat packing thing from the States. And these guys are fixing the prices through the meat packers. These ones are out of control because of the import-export. Canadian meat prices are out of control because, I think partially because they're removing a whole lot of chicken and other things from the food supply through excuse of bird flu or whatever. But oh crap, I forgot what I was saying. The meat prices are out of control in the United States. So here they're out of control because of other political factors, I think, but unknown for why beef's so out of control. But in the United States, they're out of control because of the meat packers, according to Robert Kennedy Jr. And Base Jessica says, Robert Kennedy Jr. reveals that BlackRock is quietly acquiring control of the meat and pharmaceutical markets. BlackRock owns all the meat packers. There's only 4 meat packers in this country. BlackRock owns them all. You can say to them, you need to do antitrust suits against those meat packers. The meat packers are keeping the price of meat high and the price of cows low. So the farmer gets hurt, the consumer gets hurt, and they make money because they've got a monopoly. BlackRock owns all the pharmaceutical companies, and we can start regulating the pharmaceutical companies so they behave less like a cartel. Pharmaceuticals, meats, right? It's all a cartel. It's all a cartel, and we're getting screwed. And we've got a grab bag of governance, and I'm going to keep going for a couple of minutes. Just I want people to see what's going on in BC. Honestly, I think that Dallas Brody and 1BC is one of the actual only opposition parties that is actually working for citizens and not for any outside interests at all, because they continually seem to hit it out of the park. Jared says, 1BC leader Dallas Brody introduced a bill to remove Truth and Reconciliation Day as a holiday in British Columbia. Bravo. Yes. We have no regrets, nothing to reconcile for, and no apologies to give because we did nothing wrong. And that's true. So here's just a little bit of this speech. Here we go.
Honourable Speaker, I move that a bill entitled the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation Statute Repeal Act, of which a notice has been given in my name on the order paper, be introduced and read a first time now. Mr. Speaker, our bill will remove Truth and Reconciliation Day as a holiday in British Columbia. Why? Because it doesn't deserve to be one. This day celebrates the greatest lie in Canadian history, the lie that 215 bodies were found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. But the truth is, Canadians never have committed a genocide. This holiday seeks to shame Canadians for building a civilization, for building Canada instead of leaving this land as an untamed wilderness. The idea that we need to reconcile presumes an act of wrongdoing and regret. But we have no regrets. Nothing to reconcile for, and no apologies to give, because we did nothing wrong. Settling and building Canada was great, and we're proud of it. Canadians embarked on grand and daring journeys to explore this continent. They braved rocky rivers and scaled towering mountains. They built railroads. They built this beautiful legislative building. Canadians discovered insulin and saved millions of lives. Canadians ushered in marvels of engineering and sent astronauts into outer space. We're proud to have staved off the American invasion in the War of 1812. We're proud to have fought in 1 and 2 world wars. We're proud to have invented the telephone. We're proud we ended slavery, established laws, and brought peace to warring tribes. We're proud to have brought Indigenous people with us into the modern age and formed Canada together. Instead of guilting our nation, let's celebrate it.
The speaker looked super happy about that. Honestly, the look on the speaker's face is fantastic at the end of this. Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, this is what everybody in Canada would do if they could. Not everybody, all of the leadership class would do to the people who are making fun of their ridiculous position right now, because the reality and the truth of it does not back them up. And they're just so mad that we're pointing it out. It's ridiculous. I wonder what he says. Hold on. I don't know what he says. Here we go.
Member, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Division has been called.
There you go. He's happy about division being called too. So I just think it's funny. Good for them. Well done. Bravo. Dallas Brody says, today we introduced a bill to ban DEI from public institutions. For years, men, whites, Asians, and Jews have been displaced to hire women and people of color. Jobs should go to the most qualified candidate, regardless of race or sex. Yep. I mean, I think everybody agrees, or used to agree. I thought everybody agreed that the best person who could do the job in the most competent and best way should get the job, right? Like that's what most people want, but that's not what these people want. They want affirmative action, right? And that's just not so good. Anyway, with that, we've got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay. I'll be here tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on as soon as I kill the stream. Done. And still recording. Yes, perfect. Okay. We will carry on. And there is more BC news as well. Dallas Brody again says Dave Eby replaced a provincial flag at the legislature building with a transgender flag. They denigrate our history to promote their gender ideology. They do. And there's no reason for that. And flags being flown over buildings like that denotes conquest, in my opinion, conquest. Jim McMurtry says, my union dropped my grievance. Former BCTF president who painted me as absolutely disgusting and a hate-filled racist is only one of my many extremist one of many extremists in union circles. I paid dues for over 30 years to a union that says my case is not worth taking to arbitration. And so